Hello everyone, welcome to the 21st episode of Interview with Professor Franz Rupert, and this is brought to you live from Singapore, right here in my office. And we want to welcome Franz once again, third time
Hello,
here in Singapore.
Thank you for
very warm welcome.
Yeah,
yes.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, and Franz, today let's chat a little bit on depression. Because lately I have many such cases where they are suffering. To some, this word is very common. To others, it is like a forbidden word. To the family, it may look like the person is just shut off. At the company level, it affects productivity when the staff is depressed. On the country's level, it becomes a social problem. Yeah, so. Depending on the seriousness, of course, on the depressed state. So can you share with us what is depression and what are the symptoms?
Okay. Yeah, it's a very important issue all over the world. It's I think not only here in Singapore, but we have these figures of diagnosis of depression all over the world as one of the most common illness, so-called mental illness. And so depression firsthand is a diagnosis that is given by psychiatrists, by the medical system, medical system that uses these Latin words. The Latin words, it means from being pushed down, pressed down. Depression comes from the Latin being pushed down. And so the question is, are you put down by something coming from the outside, or is something that comes from inside?
Right.
And it both can be the case.
Okay.
If you depress another people, or another person, or you depress your children, for example, or you depress your husband or your wife or your friends, then this influence comes from outside, and the question is, how much potential do you have to resist against that somebody depresses you? Yeah?
So it's pressing,
yeah,
being pressed.
Being pressed down, yeah. So the question is, where does it come from? And so also we talk about financial depression or something.
Yes.
Or it comes from business depression. It comes from outside.
Economic depression.
Yeah, economic depression. Because if you are a worker, and you need to find a job, and there is the business situation, isn't it? So this comes from outside. You want to work, but nothing, no offers, and then it comes from outside, and this depresses you down. So this is the one thing, and the other thing is how much it does come from inside. So that even you're in a good economic situation, for example, or you are in a marriage or you're in a friendship, but you're not happy, even if there's nothing that in the moment comes from outside.
Yes.
So the question is, why does it come from inside? And so in many cases you can find that those persons who are diagnosed as having a depression, they have made some experiences very early in their lives.
They experience something really early?
Yeah, really very early, that normally they can't remember when it happened. When, for example, if you are a child, after birth, you're in the hospital, and maybe you have an operation or something, and nobody is there to take care for you. Then after a while, of course, first you want to bring somebody with your crying, to get some contact, but after a while you give up.
So for a baby who is crying for attention?
And it gives up after a while. And when this happens, then we have what we have a trauma situation, and then you split, and you split the pain off, and you split, and you come into a state of helplessness, being overwhelmed, helpless, and this is what in the symptoms of the clinical symptoms of depression, when they are described, they are, in fact, they show a trauma situation. No potential to do anything, nothing you can do to improve the situation. Yeah.
So just like frozen.
You're overwhelmed, and it's
like immobilized.
Immobilized, and you don't have an appetite, or you. On the other hand, there is this trauma energy, and you can't. For example, this is so high that you can't fall asleep. You can't sleep.
Okay.
This is also
some of the symptoms.
Some of the symptoms.
So cannot sleep well.
cannot, at all, you know,
Sleep,
deep enough to recover. So in a way, you can say that the diagnosis of this depression always reflects on some trauma, and if it's permanently, you can be sure that something has happened to you. You have experienced something that traumatized you. So every person that has really over a longer period of time the symptoms of so-called depression, you can be sure this person had made traumatizing experiences. Whatever it is, it can also be the loss of a child, for example, that the mother lost a child very early, and she can't do anything against. Maybe the child becomes ill and then it's going to die, and she is helpless.
Okay.
And then she falls into a state of a trauma state, and splits off the pain of the loss.
Okay.
And maybe even if she gets another baby after this lost baby, she did not recover. And it's sometimes mothers think if I have another baby, or doctors think if the mother has another baby, it may heal her loss of the first child. But this is not the case.
Right.
So it's what's coming up is then the new child is sucked in the mother's trauma. So that always, I think it's important for everyone who has to deal with depression. The one thing is, look, is there something in the moment outside in your life that makes you helpless? And then the question is, what can I do to improve my outside situation? But if there's nothing in the moment that really refers to your feelings and your mental state, then be sure that something in your past happened that causes your symptoms, and there's something in the past that was really overwhelming and traumatizing you.
It's too much for the person to bear.
It was too much.
So it can also be when a child grows up, there is violence in the family.
Yes.
Or
all sorts of things that can traumatize a person can lead to the symptoms.
Okay.
What that they are called depression.
Okay.
In my theory, we have the definition of identity.
Yes.
And identity, and healthy identity means
Yes.
I have a healthy I have a own will, I have my own feelings. The depression refers more to the will. That my will, I have the experience that I can't change the situation by my own will. So in a way, you can say depression means that your will has been traumatized.
Okay.
I want to, of course, you do not want that when we take the example of the mother, you do not want that the baby dies, or you do not want that your husband leaves you, or you do not want that the baby to be left alone. But then you make the experiences, whatever I try, it doesn't work. So in the end, you can say
you cannot get the result that you want.
The one is traumatized. The
So
function of the will, of the human will, is coming under the condition of being useless, or you can't do what you want.
Okay. So another word for traumatized would be wounded. The will is being wounded, or the will is being hurt.
The will is made impossible. Whatever I try, it's not possible.
Okay. Okay.
You can't bring the dead person alive again, or you can't. If your husband leaves you, you can't bring him back again. Or if the babies cry, it doesn't help. The mother doesn't come because she's not there. So this is.
Or if the parents fight and the child cannot save them,
you cannot do anything against that. Can't save the mother from the violence of the father. So this is what I experience in looking at it under the perspective of identity. That it's about the want.
The want, which is very, very key to being a healthy self.
Because when you have a person that is diagnosed being depressed,
yes.
then and you say, hey, do this or do that, and the
Yes.
person I can't do it.
Yes,
It
yes.
isn't it worthwhile.
They'll ask
doing.
you to think positively, or
it doesn't help, and so it's always
go for a holiday.
Go for a holiday. No, I have done it, but it doesn't.
They become more depressed after the holiday.
Or more depressed when you say to do something. Because
Yes.
not acknowledging that their want is under has experienced trauma.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this is very key. It is very distinctive that you shed the light on the want.
Yeah. It's a traumatized will. Depression, in my view, somehow is the traumatized will.
Okay, so how do you repair that? How do you
repair?
how do you strengthen the want? Yes.
How
the will? Yes.
How can somebody change his or her situation?
Yes.
And the most important thing is to have the symptoms and look behind the symptoms. What is behind the symptoms? What did I experience? When was it? Is it now? Is it some years ago? Or is it very previous in my first weeks or month of my life?
So they can only do it through the therapy. Yeah.
You have to find have to find a way to identify the reason, the real reason that are behind the symptoms.
Many people would say that when you find roots and they go back to the past, they say, what's the use? It's already over. Yeah. Many actually say that. Yeah. So what's the use of looking at it? Yeah.
But not true. But the past, when there is trauma, the past is never over.
It's never over.
The past is never over as long as you have a look at it and deal with it and work on it. Then the past.
The symptoms.
That makes the past being over.
Only when you look at it.
Yeah, only that helps to make the past being the past. But the past is only part. It's closed
aside.
Parked aside. It's closed down, but it's not over. It's not.
Okay.
It's an illusion to think that
illusion.
This past is over.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have the effect on our daily life.
Yes.
Yeah.
So so they may want to just be curious what could have happened. So how is it possible also that most aren't aware that they are depressed? Like they aren't aware until maybe people around them tell them, "Are you okay?" Ask them. So most actually are not aware. How is it possible?
Yeah. Because in a way you can also say that being depressed is a trauma surviving strategy.
Okay.
So
it's a way to cope from
it's a coping strategy. That, for example, you say, I do not want. Your will is traumatized. I can't want, and you make out of this. You make I don't want to cope with the situation. I don't. Your affection or your want for a relationship was traumatized. You couldn't do anything. You lost the person, and then you cope with it, and you do as if you do not want to have a relationship. You reduce your wishes, your desires to the minimum level, and this is why many people in their attempt to reduce them as much as possible, not to feel trauma.
Right.
This is why.
So just shut off and
shut down. Yeah.
Retreat. Yeah.
Shut down, not to feel the pain.
Right.
It's a coping mechanism, not to feel the pain of the loss. Yeah. Then you say, okay, I don't want.
This word pain is very scary. Yeah. A lot of people, when they see this 4-letter word, it's not another 4-letter word. This 4-letter word is like my God,
Yeah, nobody wants a
physical. So scary. So how do you?
Nobody wants to have physical pain.
Is there another word for pain? when I tell my clients that it's important to come into contact with the pain, and they were like, "Oh no, I'm not going to go there." Yeah, I'm never ever going to go there. So how do you?
That's
How do you explain it healthily to them? Is there another word for pain or?
No, I think it's okay. It's okay not to want to feel pain. It's not. It's fully okay.
Yeah, emotional pain especially.
Why should you want to have pain and
Right.
feel something that's painful?
Okay.
It's fully okay, and I fully understand it, and I also we respect this avoidance tendency.
Alright.
It's quite natural.
Avoidance. Okay.
It's natural, but on the other side, you can say only if you go into contact with these painful situations, and now maybe a painful situation that you have experienced when you have been a child. Now you have more resources to deal with this painful situation. As a child you couldn't, though you had to shut down and close it up. And now you're a more grown-up person, and you can gather resources to come into contact again with this pain. Now it's different from it was when you were young.
So as a therapist, how do we know if the client is able, or is it by default that as long as they are an adult person, they are able to gather enough resources from inside to look at the truth and the pain?
I think we see it with our method. The intention method you see, and the intention method means that you formulate your intention, and this means that your unconsciousness also protects you for taking too much in, or to not to be overwhelmed again, and so in a way we have also good self-protecting mechanism inside ourselves, and we can't trust it, and so you as we see it takes time, and we do it step by step. It's not when the pain is so huge you can't do it in one step. Of course you have to do it gradually,
one baby step at a time.
Careful with yourself, and do as much as possible in the moment.
Okay. Have you ever done a session for anyone where they find it's too much for them to take, and they, what have you ever experienced?
Yeah, of course. Everyone who comes to a therapy session is very cautious and thinks, I hope it's not too much, and so it's very important for us as a therapist that we do not force it, and we do not push somebody, but we guide the person. We accompany the person to their way to deal with their painful situation from the past, or even a painful situation could also be in the moment. But this is sometimes is more easier when you know this is the reason why. Then it's more easy to regulate than it's something that comes from very far away from maybe 50 years ago, when you have been a baby and you can't remember consciously. But it's necessary to deal with these first phases of your life.
Okay. So some say that the depression is the doctors, they will always say it's genetic, because if your mother is depressed, then you are depressed, and so if it is genetic, and what's your view on this, the genetic part?
It's how they see it. And
they cannot explain it with any other way.
They can't explain. They don't have any other explanation, so they always refer to genes. So it's their way to think about it. I have my own experiences now, and I think it's more helpful to say, or it's even more helpful to say, okay, it's not your constitution, or it's not your genes, but it's about your life and your life experiences. And you can do something. You are not. You are
more
not
empowered to do
you are
something.
not dependent. If you say it's genetic and you take the medication, you still are dependent. And it increases the state of dependency that you suffer already. You are, in a way, you are made dependent by what happened. And why to continue with this dependency? We have to find ways that people find out of the state of dependency. Right.
On medication or on the institutes.
They make you dependent. You're not the expert. They are the experts, and you are only the patient. And so for me, it's more important that we become the expert
of our own lives.
our own life.
Yes,
And
that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Okay. So, is there any self-check method? Say somebody who is out there and they find that their life is a-okay, but on the outside we know that they are not okay. So, do you have any self-check method to support people out there?
Yeah, of course you can have a look at the medical system and the diagnosis and the symptoms, and if this is true for me, and do I have also a state of helplessness and no sense in life, or then you of course can make a check. But in the end, I think it's also good to listen to others when they tell you, I see that you are not so lively, and listen to others and take the feedback.
Yes.
Take the feedback in from others. They more often they see something you can't see from yourself.
Right.
Our surviving strategies, they are also avoiding to see ourselves as we are. So it's maybe a good advice first hand to take others serious when they reflect and you give you some honest feedback about of yourself, and maybe they are seeing something you can't see yourself.
Yes, yes. Very often we are blind to ourselves.
Yeah.
How about if their children are depressed? For example, parents, they are maybe not sure. So, can I say for children who are depressed, some of the symptoms may be, for example, they become introvert. I don't know, this may be the labels that is given to them. They become lazy. Can we say that these are some of the symptoms?
Apathetics.
What?
Apathetic and not so lively and not so curious.
Right.
They stay with only
it's like
with
they are lifeless.
And have no social interest. They they withdraw from their friends and this is how children can show it.
So these are also some symptoms for parents to take note of.
Yes, to observe the child. And even there is a change in the mood. For example, maybe let's say depression also can be, of course, the consequence of sexual harassment and sexual violence,
really?
And so then if you observe it in your child, that the child is withdrawing, and maybe also something like this could happen, that there was some sexual abuse or something that happened to the child.
Yeah. How about bored? Would it be a symptom if a child is bored? They're often bored.
Bored,
Yes.
of course.
Boredom.
Normally, children are looking for something new, and if they're not interested in anything else, so something must have happened that stopped them from being curious and from being interested in new things, and so
Okay, thank you, Franz. Thank you. It's really very informative. So thank you all for tuning in. So for more interviews with Franz, kindly visit my YouTube channel or Facebook page that is will be highlighted below, and you will find many practical topics that applies to your life. For those of you in Singapore and Asia, do email me if you are interested in Franz Rupert's work and also his professional training. Thank you all for tuning in.